Welcome to another episode of Courtsiders. I'm your host, Eric, and let's get right into it, folks. So, the Brooklyn Nets played the Charlotte Hornets tonight, and it was the debut of Lamarcus Aldridge. To our surprise, we were not expecting to see him this soon because he has not played in a month. So, he was in the starting five, and he actually did very well. He actually made a three-pointer from the corner. It was a nice pass by TLC. Underrated passing abilities. He does a lot of things wrong, but he does have a tendency to make incredible passes. So, Lamarcus Aldridge started for them today. It actually went well. I think if you look at yesterday's game for the Los Angeles Lakers with Andre Drummond, it didn't go as planned. I think, no one was expecting him to lose a nail and had to leave the game afterwards and didn't come back. So it's kind of like a letdown. I know for Los Angeles fans, it's probably a letdown, but sometimes that's the way it is in the NBA. It's kind of weird. I mean, he wasn't playing incredible. I think he had like 4 points and he also had like 4 fouls. So not very efficient. I think he still needs to get a groove of that team, some chemistry. Obviously, he's also not playing with the full squad. LeBron James is still hurt, and Anthony Davis is close to returning. But back to the Brooklyn Nets. So they played the Charlotte Hornets tonight, and out of the gates, they kind of blew them out of the gates. Landry Shamet was back from, I'm not going to say a sprained ankle, because that's a very severe injury, but he rolled his ankle. He came back. He got hot. I mean, he was just on fire from three-point line. So, Lamarcus Aldridge, what did I see from him tonight? I think you saw way more activity from Lamarcus Aldridge tonight than you saw maybe in like the last year or two in San Antonio. I think it's crazy how unhappy some of these basketball players are, or athletes in general, are in these locations, and how that kind of correlates with their production on the court. So honestly, he looked a little bit different today. He looked a little bit slimmer, if I could say that. He did look a little bit slimmer compared to his San Antonio version. I don't know, it was just because he was not working out or he was just, doing a lot of cardio, but needless to say, he looked a lot slimmer. So how about the gameplay? So I think the Hornets definitely saw some film with the Houston Rockets, and the Houston Rockets were playing a 2-3 zone versus the Nets in the first half, which really gave them problems, right? They couldn't break it down. They were getting trapped. So, obviously, Brooklyn Nets, very talented. They won versus the Houston Rockets in the second half because they kind of broke it down a little bit more. They attacked the middle, started dishing out to the sides, trying to break down a 2-3 zone. So, why am I saying all this? It's because the Hornets came out with a 2-3 zone. So I think they thought they were going to give the Brooklyn Nets more problem because the Houston Rockets gave them more problems. But I think there's a big difference between the Hornets and the Rockets, right? I think the Rockets are a very physical team, even though the record doesn't, kind of say that. They're a very physical team. They have athletic guards and they have athletic forwards. So the Hornets came out playing this 2-3 zone, and the Nets just completely destroyed it. I think when you have premier, or maybe they're not elite or premier anymore like they used to be, but if you have players like Blake Griffin, Lamarcus Aldridge, if you have players like this, you could easily break down a 2-3 zone. The elbows are super important to break down in the 2-3 zone. So basically, if you're the point guard, you're on top of the key, you're looking for someone to be located in either of those elbows, either the left one or the right one, or you can even do both. But you actually need someone who's really aware of space, who's really, I would say, more experienced down low, because when you're in that kind of paint and elbow area, the defense is going to collapse on you, and there are going to be a couple of arms like in your peripheral vision. So I think the more experience you have, the better you kind of feel when you're down low in that elbow, trying to break down a 2-3 zone. So you have players like Blake Griffin, who at one point in his career was an elite post player, right? You have Lamarcus Aldridge, who at one point was a super elite post player, and he still is. I mean, he's still a mismatch with certain players, right? Maybe if you put him with someone like AD, he might not get a bucket every time he tries to post up, but he'll get some of them. He is 35 years old, so he has been playing in this league for about 14 years. I think he started in the league when he was 21 with Portland. Now he's 35. I know you kind of don't count him, but yeah. So if you have a post player or a player that is used to being in the post, you could easily break down a 2-3. And I think that's what happened tonight versus the Hornets. Kyrie was just dishing it kind of like to the elbow areas where Aldridge was, and he was just doing what he does. And there was a lot of kind of switches also, so a lot of the times he was like being guarded by Martin, and he's just too small for Aldridge. So yeah, it kind of went well for his first game. They were feeding him. They were giving him like sort of easy looks. I think with the team Brooklyn has, you spread the ball out pretty well. So Lamarcus Aldridge is going to have opportunity on this team to score buckets for sure. There was one thing I wanted to talk about Deandre Jordan. There was a lot of, I'm not going to say speculation because it was reality. So he was not playing tonight. I did not see him at all. And I think Steve Nash, after the game, said, we didn't really want to put him at the end of the game because, he had good energy on the bench. But it's kind of an introduction to this new phase of the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know if Deandre Jordan actually works in the system that Steve Nash wants to implement, but he's trying his best, right? I think Deandre Jordan at his core is not a bad NBA player, a bad person, or anything. It's just the fit. So I think they're just bringing in these players for insurance. I think a lot of players on that team are not going to play come playoff time. That's the cruel part about the NBA. The rotations are going to be shortened. So I'm not sure if Steve Nash is going to go 12 deep. I think it's going to be a 9-man rotation. So people are going to get phased out, and that is sometimes the cruel part about the NBA. But you have to be kind of just in it, right? I mean, even if you're on the bench, you have to have good energy for the people that are actually starting. Everyone's been in that position before where you think you should be starting, you think you should be in the game, but, you can't be negative when you're trying to create something positive. So that's what I want to say. I mean, the debut for him was, I don't know if it could have been better. In all honesty, maybe if he scored 20, it would have been better. But, he nailed the 3, which he would be crucified in San Antonio for not actually being able to shoot 3. So it was weird, dude. It was weird, and it's almost are these players just doing this on purpose in places that they don't want to be? Because Blake Griffin, he was in Detroit, couldn't dunk. He comes to I was about to say New Jersey, to Brooklyn, and starts catching alley-oops. Lamarcus Aldridge comes to Brooklyn, and starts shooting corner threes. So that's a little short podcast, and I would say the middle of the week. So follow us on Twitter. Visit the website at thecourtsiders.com. Visit our YouTube channel. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or whichever platform you listen to podcasts on. I'm your host, Eric. Have a good night.